to Renewables in Action. Today, we have the honor of speaking to Mr. Olivier Pognon. So, he is the director, the CEO of African Legal Support Facility. So, the ALSF, I don't know if you heard about that before, but they actually play a pivotal role in strengthening Africa legal and also institutional capacity, especially when we talk about, you know, complex commercial transactions, infrastructure project, but also natural resource management. And as the continent of Africa accelerates its renewable energy transition, legal frameworks, but also tools become just as important as the technology itself. Because without the right legal backbone, project can stall, financing can collapse, and sovereignty can be compromised. I've seen it firsthand, right? And in this conversation that we're going to have today, so we'll explore how legal instruments are shaping Africa energy future and why the path, to sustainable power is not just about megawatts, but also about contracts, regulation, but also institutions that safeguard the continent interest. And I'm going to be talking to Mr. Pognon in a second. So see you in a minute. Hello, hello, hey, that's Tony, founder of Renewables in Africa. We're always happy, very happy to see you, right? So, what we do is very simple. We raise awareness about renewable energy and sustainability. If you want to break or expand into Africa, we are your eco-bridge and we can help you with three things: visibility, leads, but also deals. Or if you say, hey, what I want to do is to tap into carbon footprint, not a problem. We can help you with carbon footprint assessment, carbon reduction strategy, anything carbon, make sure that you reach out to us. But today, what I want to talk to you about is legal framework, contracts. How important are they? And like I say, I have the real pleasure of welcoming Mr. Pognon, who is the CEO of ALSF. So, Olivier, could you hear me?
I can hear you, Tony. Hello.
Hello, hello, Olivier. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Tony?
Very good. Where are you joining me from today?
I'm currently in Europe,
Okay.
heading to Singapore in a couple of days,
Okay.
and I'll be back in Abidjan, where the head office of the ALSF is, in about a week.
Okay. Are you chasing
Yeah.
contract?
I am. Well, we're always contracts. Everything is about contracts, right? Whether it's partnerships, money,
Exactly.
visibility, all grounded in contracts. So yes, I'm chasing contracts.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Olivier, so obviously I was very excited when I knew that I was going to have the opportunity to talk to you because, like I say, you're dealing with an aspect of the basically whole industry, which is very, very important. And sometimes we're missing people that can really explain that properly to us. And like I say, we're very privileged to have you. And just to also give justice to the fantastic career you've had so far, I was thinking maybe you can take a minute or so to introduce yourself so that our audience get to know you a bit better. And like I say, we have some key questions that we'll really like to run through with you, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. And indeed, thanks very much for having me on your show. This is very much appreciated on behalf of the African Legal Support Facility, which I've been heading and leading for the past 4 years or so. So my name is Olivier. I'm originally from Benin, born and raised. Studied and graduated in France as a lawyer. Then I worked in private practice for a number of years before moving into the development kind of world. I worked at the French Development Agency, AFD, for a few years before venturing into, again, private sector telecoms. I was in my last role before joining the LSF in 2021 was general counsel of Airtel. Airtel is a telecoms Pan-African telecom corporation. So I was the general counsel of Airtel for Africa, based in Nairobi, and I joined the ALSF about 4 years ago. I'm clocking 4 years next week, to basically bring together my background in law, a bit of finance, project development, and ensure that the asymmetry in negotiating power that we've often observed, on the continent when it comes to investments on the continent, to make sure that asymmetry in negotiating power is closed, one day at a time, if you wish, right? There's I mean, all practitioners of law can testify that they've witnessed a situation where clearly when the government was negotiating with a private party, there was a blatant lack of level playing field in that scenario. So that's what we're trying to tackle at the ALSF. Like I said, one day at a time, one transaction at the time. So it's a long-term journey. But that's what the mandate of the ALSF is about, is to support African governments with the right tools, the right approach, the right processes in terms of advisory, capacity building for African governments, land contracts that are fair, that are equitable, that are transparent, so that when it comes to the energy sector or when it comes to the infrastructure sector, we as a continent can foresee contracts that stand the passing of time and that support the development of our countries. So that's the mandate of the ALSF.
Excellent. Thank you very much for obviously making a bridge, introduce yourself, but also moving straight on to what ALSF is doing. Let me just take you back a little bit. So having a little bit of a big picture understanding, which you've given us some glimpse. So how do you really see the role of the law, but also legal institution when it comes to accelerating the renewable energy transitions in the continent of Africa?
Well, like we said earlier, Tony, I mean, the law and the rule of law, is in everything, right? Every, I would say, interaction, commercial interaction, is grounded in the observation of the rule of law, which then translates into a contract which the parties are meant to live with and abide by for the period of their engagement, right? So the energy transition is no exception to that, and I would say sound legal frameworks, sound contracts, sound and fair contracts, um, a, a way to understand, because the energy transition also comes with new instruments, new technology, and it is important to ensure that the law also absorbs and understands those new technology, new instruments, and translate them into, again, sound agreements between parties involved in contracts. So I would say that the regulations are important, making sure that when it comes to the African countries, for instance, making sure that the renewable energy development, the just energy transition development, initiatives development, is supported by legal and regulatory framework that are at par with whatever is ongoing on the rest of the rest of the planet. We don't want to be left behind because our regulation, our legal frameworks are not at the level where they should be. So that's the I think in that sense, the law plays a pivotal role in enforcing or advancing the just energy transition, because everything we do or undertake has to be grounded in the observance of the rule of law.
Absolutely. And thank you for obviously making that very clear. And you were talking about obviously the global context and making sure that we're not left behind. That's what you said. And you also know that there's been a very much growing discussions in the continent talking about legal sovereignty in energy. A lot of people are talking about that because it's fair to say that back in the days of our history, unfortunately, we've not always been fortunate to make sure that we design contract that plays into our interests. It was at times, let's say, basically one-sided, right? Coming from the side of the people bringing the investment. So how can the African states now would design legal framework that would protect their interests while attracting global investment? Because it's about guaranteeing legal sovereignty here.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you on that. That it's I don't know if it's a delicate balance, but it's a balance to be that one needs to strike when it comes to protecting national interests, but still making sure that a country remains open to investments, because our countries simply can't develop without the required level of funding, and that funding comes from foreign investors. So there's an equilibrium to be found between making sure that your national interests are protected, because eventually let's say your resources, your natural resources, your whether you have a carbon sink and potential for for a country, the population, it's not just a government asset. So protecting national interest on behalf of the population and on behalf of future generation is at the heart of, or must be at the heart of, any decisions that governments make. So that's on the one side, and on the other side, you need to position yourself such that when an investor has an investment opportunity between your country and some other jurisdiction, they see the benefits of investing in your country rather than the other. So there has to be some level of incentives, flexibility, and a framework for investment that represents an incentive. But I think we're at a time where the word sovereignty is used a lot, but I guess it's I assume it only means, at least that's how we understand it at the ALSF. It means that you need to know exactly what your strength is, what your strengths are, and your weaknesses are, right?
Right.
Leverage on your strength, and when it comes to Africa, for instance, our strength is our potential in natural resources, and that in itself gives us a negotiation power that is often or sometimes not fully understood, or that we don't fully realize, right? If you're standing on a stock or on a pile of natural resources, there has to be a way in which you leverage those assets into your negotiation power, right? While being fair to your investors, who also need to make a return, and can't be or can't and don't want to anticipate being at loss when they invest in your country.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to understand, and what we really need to grab as we go forward, is that we as Africa has a negotiation power, uh, because the resources that the world needs are on the continent, and that in itself should be powerful enough to give us the confidence that we don't have to just give in to whatever an investor brings us as legal documentation to sign. Hence the need to develop the negotiation capacity and our ability to understand the nitty-gritty of legal documentation, what is important, what is not important, and what will make a difference, 3 years, 5 years down the line in terms of the benefits that the country yields from that contract.
I think you definitely been drumming up the message that I've been saying for ages now. So Africa has the results that the world needs. So we should definitely bring them the balance and have fairer negotiation. Thanks for that. So ALSF, as I say, it's fair to say uh, there isn't enough knowledge about what you guys do, and I'm sure you're doing tremendous work, right? So I was wondering whether you could give me a recent example where the legal support that you've been providing has made a decisive difference when it comes to moving a renewable energy project forward, so that people could really see how key of a role you're playing.
Yeah. There's the energy sector landscape on the continent is evolving. I would say even evolving quite fast. And the LSF has been involved in supporting governments with embracing those changes. For instance, with energy markets being liberalized across the continent, came the need for independent power producers to invest in the country to close the energy gap that the grid could not provide by itself. So IPPs have been a big part of our work in the recent years, unlocking the IPP potential by reviewing the legal and regulatory framework to make sure that the framework for independent power producers to establish in the country and to deliver their product and services is enabled. And we had a number of successful endeavors in that regard in countries like Eswatini. We've also been involved in innovative projects like the Seychelles floating solar plants, the first of its kind in Africa, where we assisted the country with basically the legal structuring and the assessing or ensuring the commercial viability on that project. We've also been, as you know, Tony, the green hydrogen sector is still nascent, but has been growing in the past few years. And the LSF has also been involved in the green hydrogen sector. Again, helping countries structure their investment framework to welcome developers and investors, and that's been the case in countries like Namibia and Egypt. So, just to say that we try as much as possible to address the needs, be it current existing needs or emerging needs of countries, and make sure that whenever a trend appears that seems to have potential for a country's financial resources, that a country approaches that new trend or that with all the care that is required from a legal standpoint, while still working towards welcoming investors and having capital deployed in that sector.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Many countries in Africa argue that we need standardized contracts and model to reduce risk for investors, because obviously we have 54 African states. But others say that we need to leave every country to obviously design their own, because each of the contexts in those countries requires some kind of flexibility. And have been in the sector for more than 10 years now, and I've definitely always heard this question. I must admit, I don't have a legal background, so I don't know where to stand on it. So, what would the ALSF say, to balance this tension?
Well, I won't lie to you, Tony. I'm a big fan of standardized contract. Why? I think, like I was saying earlier, you need to know where you stand, as a destination for investment, or as a country that has resources that the world needs. You need to be able to do your homework, understand where your strengths lie and what your weaknesses are. And for me, the best way to encapsulate those data points is by defining your way of doing business, right? And you
Mhm.
define your way of doing business in a well thought through template contracts, right? If you come to invest in my country, this is how I would like to see things done, okay, based on my um, GDP projections, based on my exports prospects, based on this, based on that, on that data. So I've done my homework, and I've put all that intelligence, strengths and weaknesses into a document that says, I'm more than happy to welcome you, but this is how we'd like things to be done. That being said, and if it was only that, then there wouldn't be any need for negotiation, or there wouldn't be any opportunity for negotiation, right? That being said, once you've established your way of doing business, you also need to be able to find niches in that framework where you allow for flexibility. And it can be major things, can be minor things, it can also be major things, provided even those major things are thought through in advance, and you know that you can accommodate some of the concessions you make, without jeopardizing your financial model or your revenue model, or the way you intend to exploit your natural resources. So I would say yes, standardized contracts are something that uh, our countries, our governments should definitely prioritize, uh, but with a clear understanding, or of with room for well thought through flexibility, and one that doesn't endanger your initial assumptions.
Excellent. I think that's a clear answer, and I'm sure people will like to hear that coming from your side. We've been talking over the years now about Africa still lacking significant amount of power, right? So I think now, if you're looking at the electrification rate in the continent, we're probably around 54, I think less than 60% for sure. So we still need a lot of projects that will be connecting to the grid. But there's still a number of bottlenecks from the legal side that would prevent large scale financing for those projects in Africa today. And I want to know from your side, because you're working for ALSF, and which is obviously an institution that was set up by the African Development Bank. So you're dealing with many countries and those big projects. So you know this project. So can you summarize for us what are the biggest legal bottleneck that you've seen that are actually preventing those big projects from happening, because we need them?
Yeah. Um, I think one should talk about the governance challenges, right? The legal uncertainty, the regulatory gaps, uh, the sometimes uncertainty with regards to legal disputes. What happens if my if my investment is questioned, and where do I, as an investor, seek a just recourse. I think this can still be huge bottlenecks, especially in a context where at time the continent or some of our countries are still perceived as high risk investment destinations. Although that in itself is a question and a separate debate, whether that's just and fair. But I think that's why, again, the legal and regulatory frameworks and the sanity of those is key. From the onset, an investor has to be able to perceive that the terms of the investments will be fair, that there won't be any undue expropriation of his assets, and that if he needs to return on capital, I mean, he wants to be able to to repatriate dividends, there should be an enabling framework to do that. Again, well thought through and well discussed and agreed with the country. So all those should be in place to some extent. And sometimes, this is still a challenge. And that challenge leads to the other issue. The other bottleneck is the lack of financing, right? So the two are linked in the sense that the money won't easily flow in if there's a perception that you are a risky investment destination. And then there's some more, I would say, concrete challenges. This is all the issues around feasibility studies done properly, environmental assessments, concerns being addressed properly. So as you know, Tony, the MDBs especially play a big role in helping countries doing pre-feasibility or feasibility studies, environmental assessments studies. But even there is still some lack of funding and lack of capacity that needs to be addressed. So I would say these are in my view, this is the big picture in terms of the global the main challenges. It's governance, generally speaking, and funding.
Financing. Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. That's what I've heard over and over again. It's good to hear you confirming that. So it means that, hey, this is what we need to be looking at. So let me move you into some kind of innovative mechanism, right, to get things working. Because we, from the legal side, I've always heard about the traditional PPAs and sovereign guarantee. Just because countries are perceived as risky destinations, most of the time, investors come into the country, especially for large projects, they want sovereign guarantee. But if you were to give sovereign guarantee to everybody, obviously the other side is you actually creating a big risk for the country, especially for national debt. So you can't always do that, right? So I was wondering, according to you, what other innovative legal but also contractual tools that we could be looking at and emerging as a possible options to de-risk those projects?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Tony. And I must confess that I don't think that the legal community has been very creative and innovative in that respect, and we always stumble on that issue of sovereign guarantee versus sovereign guarantee, which the investors absolutely want, and sovereign guarantee that countries or governments rejects with all their might because they can't afford to add to their, to their sovereign liabilities. I must say that I don't think that we've been creative enough. There are some, I would say, lighter mechanisms that bear less financial or immediate financial responsibility on the countries. Could be, letters of comfort, for instance, or even, with where the crux of that mechanism would be the wording. So it wouldn't be a sovereign guarantee as such, but it would be a document that, in a way, gives some level of assurance to the investor that should something go wrong, should the power deliverance, for instance, not be paid, not be taken off, then there would be a remedy. And of course, countries don't want to translate that into financial consequences, because that would immediately impact their balance sheet. So there's still some work to be done in that respect. As we stand, we're discussing in a country in North Africa. We're precisely discussing a mechanism that would be somewhere between a comfort letter and a sovereign guarantee. It's so in the wording and the drafting of that document, but we're hoping that both parties find comfort and assurance in that mechanism that we're putting in place. But I must say that there's more work to be done, and some more creativity to be used in that
Excellent. So
space.
that means that you actually open to anybody, any companies as such, who may have some innovative idea that could move the needle a little bit forward in this aspect. You say that. Okay, excellent.
Of
That's good
course.
to know. If there's some, winning company out there listening to us, this is your opening. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're looking forward to hearing from
Excellent.
you.
That's fine. Um, you know, Africa definitely is working to open up borders. We have big initiative program like AFCFTA that all of us are waiting for,
Mhm.
for the implementation I'm talking about. And then we know also that the continent builds cross-border power pools that could be more effective. We know we have the Southern African power pool that works, let's say, relatively well, but there's still a lot of progress there. Then West African power pool, but those are the two that actually really operational. So Central and
Yeah.
East, a lot more could be done. So looking at those interconnections, those pools that I mentioned, what kind of legal framework would you say are urgent to put in place so that we can ensure a smooth regional energy trade? Because we need that. Energy trade is what we've been also drumming about in Africa. We need to see a lot more of that, because compared to other continents, the energy trade in Africa is almost ridiculous, right? So much trade in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you have to say there?
Yeah. Well, I think the main challenge there, but that's also the beauty of those initiatives like SAP and WAP. It's uh, the attempt to regionalize the sector in terms of trade, in terms of practices, in terms of tariffs, where the energy in itself is often assumed to be of, like we say, national interest, and guided by national considerations. So I think the work that we do with the likes of SAP and WAP first is to work on capacity building initiatives with those two organizations, and we have a very good working relationship with both SAP and WAPP. Um, we want to make sure that there's a common understanding of what the challenges and opportunities in the sector are at the regional level. And we also want to make sure that regional and national frameworks are aligned to a level where trade can happen on let's say, a common denominator, right? I think it's the challenges faced by the FCFTA are of the same nature, and it's inherent to those projects where um, you try to bring together countries that have very different um, national framework, could have diverging interests in terms of the way they want to manage their resources, but are still willing to come together and find a common ground to do business and attract investment. So I think, where the LSF plays a role is in building capacities with those initiatives, and laying the ground for trade and investment to happen at a regional level, be it transmission, especially when it comes to transmission and cross-border transmission lines.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So, Olivier, we're coming towards the end of our conversation, like I say. So, time has been running very fast here. But there's one key thing that I have for you that I want to ask you. And then we usually do that as well to all our guests coming to our show. We leave them the floor to essentially pitch to whoever they want to pitch. And I have a special topic that I have for you today, because you told me that recently, on the 26th of May, I think you had an event where you were bringing together, obviously, your member countries to, I guess, telling them a lot more about ALSF, what you do. But you also have some specific requests that you told me to bear. So I don't want to tell people what it is, because you say that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go on backstage. I'll leave you a couple of minutes or so for you to talk to people about what is that very special message that you have for them on the back of the event that you organize on the 26th of May. So I'm just going to be on the backstage, and the floor is you. Are you ready for that?
Let's give it a shot.
Excellent. So I'm going on backstage. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Tony. I think the message is quite straightforward, and I think everybody can understand that the African Legal Support Facility, as a Pan-African organization, 100% dedicated to African governments, African countries, in key and working in key sectors that are at the heart of our country's development: energy, PPP, natural resources, sovereign finance. The ALSF is an organization that, of course, acts at the request of its member countries, so provides the services that they require in terms of advisory services and capacity building. But to do that, the LSF needs financial resources, right? I mean, it's no secret that lawyers can be expensive. I'm not talking about the LSF lawyers. I'm talking about external lawyers. It can be expensive, but jokes aside, I think what we said to our member countries on 26th of May, and that I'm reiterating here, is that the LSF needs to be supported more than ever, because we're at a stage where we've taken a deliberate approach to accelerate the services we provide to our governments, in terms of scope of services, in terms of potentially sectors that could emerge, And we've simply seen the number of requests we receive from governments for assistance almost doubled in the past 3-4 years. So what we want to tell, especially our member countries, but also to the donors community, is that the ALSF is working on innovative mechanisms to improve its financial resources, but also to improve the level of and the quality of delivery of its services. That's a continuous journey that we're on to improve the quality of the services we provide to our countries. But we see huge potential to do more and better of what we've been doing for the past 15 years. And for that, we need our financial resources to be boosted, and to be boosted largely by a contribution of our member countries. So that's the message that we've been hammering for the past few months. It's a critical message because, like we discussed in this conversation, Tony, negotiation and capacity building on this negotiation is at the heart of what sectors such as the energy sector, the mining sector will become in the near future. And we stand ready to play a critical role, and even more critical than the role that the ALSF is playing now. But for that, we need the resources.
Okay, that's actually very clear. So thank you very much, Olivier, for that and for this wonderful message. I'm sure that it has been heard of by the people that you were talking to, donor community, and also all the member countries and all, let's say, philanthropy, whoever wants to contribute to the fantastic work that you're doing.
Sure.
So all left for me just to say thank you very much for giving us the time to talk to you. And as I'll say, we're very much favorable to what you're doing. Happy to support anywhere we can. And I'm very much hoping that as well we'll have a chance to continue this conversation a little further. So make sure that next time you're having your meeting, so please do invite us, and we'd like to come and report, obviously from the day how the conference is going. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to exchanging further with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Take care.
So as you see now, we've been talking to Mr. Olivier Pognon. So thank you very much again for shedding light on an often overlooked, I would say, but critical piece of the Africa energy transition, which is the law, right? So we've heard today how legal framework, they're not just the paperwork. They are the foundation that will determine investment flows, that will determine project success, and ultimately that will determine the energy sovereignty. And as the continent of Africa races towards, I would say, a renewable future, so the ALSF work reminds us that sustainable power is built on strong legal ground. If we don't have it, we go nowhere. Yeah. To our audience, I want to say, if you want to understand Africa clean energy story, don't just follow the technology, follow the contract, the policy, the institution shaping them, and the money. So thank you for joining us, and then we hope to see you in our next episode where we bring another exciting key players in the industry for us to learn about what is happening in our fantastic continent. So thank you very much, and see you next time.